Pretty much all of my time outside of sleeping and working would be spent embracing the outdoors. There's something so powerful about nature. It can energise you and at the same time ground you.
Unfortunately, everything has a footprint or a mark that's left. Our lifestyle has freedom, and that means it has the freedom to consume.
Change is never easy, but in my experience, nothing good in life ever is. Project Zero is an attempt to produce a carbon neutral house in operation.
It's an aspiration. How close can we go? What can we do to live as much as possible within the provision that nature has?
In designing a sustainable dwelling, you first of all need to think about the specific climate that one is in, and then ensure that the house is responding to that climate. So in our situation, wind and sun and cross ventilation are the primary immediate benefits that one gets from the climate. So orientation is obviously critical. We're not thinking just about the house, but the way the house relates to the site is the fundamental first starting point.
The architects came up with a plan where we've got a northeast facing design. He talked about utilising natural light, natural ventilation, and really getting some greenery into the house.
Brian suggested we investigate post-war homes, and then he also suggested reusing as much as we could of the existing post-war home. Now that was a concept, I suppose, it was quite difficult for Emma and I to both grasp. We thought that the house should be completely demolished and we start again with a blank canvas.
The advantages of reusing any house, let alone a post-war house, is that already there's so much energy embedded in that piece of work. They're built of hardwood frames, they're built of pine wall cladding. There's very few houses that actually can have that now. So if you can leverage off that and use that, then I think it automatically is a fantastic sort of sustainability position to be in.
Once Brian had given us the layout and we'd locked that down, then started the process with Rob to initiate design principles around getting a carbon neutral house in operation.
When I consider the use of carbon on a site, there is the idea that the systems generate more electricity, etc., than they use. But there's a whole process of carbon being used in the construction of the home. It's found in all of the petrol that's consumed for builders to go to site. It's found in the new materials that are shipped over or constructed somewhere. There's a lot of embedded carbon in what we're building with. To be truly carbon neutral, we need to be able to compensate for or offset the carbon that is used in the whole construction process, as well as what happens in operation.
So to offset the carbon used in construction, we needed to not only think about how the house was going to perform upon completion, but also the types of materials we were going to use during the build. Some of the key materials we selected were recycled bricks, recycled blackbutt timber. We used New Guinea rosewood windows and doors. We reused the entire post-war house, excluding the cutout for the skylight and the original roof tiles. We pumped polyurethane into the external walls of the post-war house to help us achieve our R value of 3. That was something for everybody involved in the project. It was a first time. From a joinery point of view, we used ply. Any paints we used were actually no VOC paints. It's the smart design through the ventilation with the sawtooth roof, clever fans. Any decision we made was scrutinised the best we could, often in consultation with BVN and Rob Lord. The reason it works so well, the reason we ultimately don't use much power and use too much water is because it's cleverly designed.
Once we'd settled on the design of the house, we then looked at the gardens and how they would interact with the architecture.
My driving influence for the project is really pulling from the architecture. I like to get really involved in knowing and feeling what the house is all about. With the house it's quite strong, and with the plants it's very important to soften. So what we've done is mass planted but randomly, and they're not so straight rows or lines. I like a lot of green on green, so I haven't gone for a lot of colour, but leaf texture is really quite big. I sort of manipulate a few plants while they're young. I turn them on their sides, so the trunk is going to get like a bend or a twist to it. There's nothing better with a landscape than looking natural, and that's what I'm trying to achieve. The landscape design is sustainable. In a way, it's the plant selection is the key thing. Selecting plants that can take changing climate. It's a difficult site being cut into the hill, and the soil is fairly poor, so it's choosing plants that can take that. I work with a lot with the tried and proven plants. A bit old-fashioned in a way, some of them, but they grow and they perform, and that's what it's all about. The irrigation is set from all the rainwater tanks. So any rain that we do get, that's all stored, and that's going to be put back through the system. Probably the most important thing to me, which completes my work, is the pleasure people get from the garden. It's just a whole new environment, a whole new life's being produced for them, which is great pleasure for me to think that they've turned into green-loving people, really.
Once the house was completed, it was amazing to finally move in and experience the house the way the architects had intended. The original house was picked up and turned 90 degrees and pushed to the back of the block, and that's where all of the bedrooms and bathrooms are. The new wing was designed out of our recycled brick. This is quite a narrow wing, but with the doors opening right up onto that outside area, it feels like you've got so much more space in the house. I love how I can stand in the kitchen and be watching the boys playing out in the yard, jumping on the trampoline. It's just a beautiful flow from the living area out into the outdoor area. The northeast facing block really utilises the prevailing breezes, and the sawtooth roof with the high louvers really helps with the natural ventilation of the house, which means that we haven't had to rely on air conditioning to keep the place cold. The sunken garden was a bit of a contentious issue with the design process just because of the difficulty of getting the skylight into the block. I'm so glad that we did it because it just brings so much natural light into the upstairs and also the downstairs areas of the old house. We really wanted to see a lot of green from all areas of the house. So from the living area, we look out onto the grass courtyard, and beyond that is a beautiful green, almost enchanted forest that we really wanted the kids to enjoy playing there. When the doors are open, you're sitting here on the couch, you really are feeling like you're out there in the garden. You can feel the breezes, you can smell the flowers, and it really does bring the outside in. One of our favourite features of the outdoor area would have to be the high-level screen. The architects designed it to incorporate the old with the new, but one of the unintended outcomes was the privacy that it gives us from our neighbours, and it really does bring together the whole outdoor space. The outdoor room would have to be one of the most utilised rooms in the house. The kids love it because they can climb over the benches, and we love it because we can be sitting out there and watching the kids kick the football on the grass. In the summer it gets beautiful breezes, and in the winter we've got the fireplace, which gives a beautiful warmth to the area.
Looking back at Project Zero and the journey, I think there's no question it's been a success. We are producing more power than we're using, and the result has meant we've got a home that's carbon neutral in operation.
We've got a fantastic house. We love it, our kids love it, and I think the design of the house has a huge part to play in that. We've managed to achieve sustainability in a really livable way.
Building a sustainable home was challenging. We needed to be open and understanding. BVN, Rob and Stephen Clegg have done a fantastic job. They really stayed the course with us, and it was a long journey, and the result has been absolutely fantastic. This house it moulds to the way Emma and I interact with the kids, and continues to get better and better as we have more and more experiences. It looks fantastic, but more the point, it just feels right.